You asked and we listened. We're here with a Southern California rental market update. This is a guide for tenants and landlords where rental rates are for Southern California. Hey there. Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates. We've been helping buyers and sellers make the best data-driven decisions in this crazy market, and we're here with a rental market update. Now, this is our first one, and we're going to expand on this. Right now, we're going to cover 3 counties. That's LA, Orange County, and Riverside. We'll add the other ones that we cover in other content, and we're going to run through the number of units that have rented, broken down by unit type, and also we're going to run through the median rental rates for those respective unit types. One important point before we dive in is the problem with rental data. It is not as easy to pull these numbers as it is for sale inventory. On for sale inventory, a lot of those go on the multiple listing service, but at the end of the day, even if they're not there, they're recorded at the recorder's office. So we have accurate data on when homes have sold. The problem is we don't have the same accuracy when it comes to rentals. Data is highly fragmented for rental rates. So the MLS does have a portion of properties that have rented, but a lot of landlords these days don't choose to use the multiple listing service. There's other ways to do it. So they'll go to Zillow, for example. They'll go to Craigslist. And I have a video to explain why you shouldn't use Craigslist. And there's other websites out there and resources for landlords to list their properties for rent. The point being is if someone doesn't use the MLS or uses some other resource, there's really no way to compile all the data. You're going to have to bear that in mind as you review these numbers and compare it to where you find other data. We're going to give you what we find on the multiple listing, and we'll continue to move forward with that. There is consistency if you use the same resources. But again, just bear in mind that the data isn't perfect, but it's as close as it can be and consistent. So if you're ready to dive into the rental rates for Orange County, LA, and Riverside, hit that like button and let's get started. And let's dive into the data. We're going to start with the number of units in the 3 counties we're covering. We're going to add more counties, don't worry. They'll be coming soon, but we wanted to start out here. So first, we're going to start in Orange County. We are going to look at the number of units. We've broken it down by the unit type because that's going to be more helpful. If we clumped it all together, it isn't very meaningful. After we run through the unit numbers, the numbers that have leased in July's, then we're going to look at the median rental rates, and that's where it gets interesting. We're going to show you those increases. So studios are way down. Studios and 1 bedrooms actually tend to be the most popular units, but you can see there just aren't as many of them that were closing in July. The other important thing to point out, the red line is July of 2020. July of 2021 is the white line. July of 2022 is the gold line. You can see that in most cases, inventory is down, and we're going to see that in LA as well. Riverside's an interesting twist on things, and we're seeing this reduction in inventory because there's just fewer rentals available, and obviously these are COVID years that we're showing you, and you can see that most folks weren't making a move. So when folks weren't making a move, we weren't getting new inventory coming. So here's a quick look. Of course, subscribe to our email newsletter so you can dive in deeper on these numbers. Moving on to Los Angeles and a slightly different trend, we can see that 2021 was actually a little higher in certain unit types. Again, studios and 1 bedrooms, very popular, just aren't as many of those. And 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms in Los Angeles are popular, 2 bedrooms being the most popular in Los Angeles. But inventory is down. We don't have as many people moving. Now, Los Angeles, as I've talked about in the market updates, has an eviction moratorium still in place. It's been in place throughout COVID, and it is still there. That's both LA City and LA County. So that means a lot of folks are staying put. Even if they're not paying rent, they're staying put. So we're seeing lower numbers of folks making a move in Los Angeles than we would see based on the number of folks who live there. And looking at Riverside, so one major difference in the other 2 counties, we saw that there were fewer 4-bedroom plus than there were other unit types. But Riverside, there tend to be larger units. So we can see that there's actually, of all the inventory, there's the most of the 4+ bedrooms. So it's an interesting twist on the levels of inventory, still very, very low. July of 2021, almost nothing available, and still low levels here in July of 2022. For the charts from this video and other updates you're not going to want to miss, make sure you subscribe to our free weekly email newsletter. We have a link above and a link below so you can do that. And here's where the rubber meets the road. This is why you paid for the free admission, to get in to see the median rental rates. And again, broken down by unit type, much more helpful to see the respective rents and the different unit sizes. So the bottom line is July of 2020, and the top line is July of 2022. These are dramatic increases through COVID in the median values for rentals throughout Orange County. Just big numbers. In fact, if we focus on the 3-bedroom, we see the increase of $3,300 to $4,200 for a 3-bedroom. This is an increase of 27% in 2 years. That's a huge jump. Studios took a massive jump. Everything in Orange County, rents have gone through the roof. Now, the thing to bear in mind is this is the median rental rate for a new rental. And I'm going to flesh that out and why that matters. Moving on to Los Angeles, and very different look on numbers. And you'll see very different from Riverside as well, where we had those big increases year over year in Orange County. You'll see it in Riverside. We don't have the same thing in certain unit types in Los Angeles. Now, in fact, you can see that 4+ bedrooms are actually down from 2021 levels, and studios didn't increase that much. Those are still big numbers, very expensive properties. But at the end of the day, the difference here in Los Angeles is the eviction moratorium. And I have a feeling what that's doing is it is reducing the number of properties that are turning over to get new higher rents. And this is why it's important to break it down by unit type, because you can see that certain things went up, like 3 bedrooms went up 19% in 2 years, but 4+ is actually down. So definitely important to look at this. It gives landlords a way to help set rents, and it gives tenants a way to understand where rents are. And finally, Riverside, the median values. The studio, we didn't have any that traded in July of 2022, so we don't have a number for that. But everything has seen a big increase, except for maybe 1-bedrooms. The 2-year increase is massive, but the year-over-year increase isn't that big for the 1-bedroom. But the 3-bedroom, that 2-year increase from 2020 to 2022, that is a 33% increase in rental rates, specifically for the 3-bedroom. That is a big jump. So here you can see that rental rates in Riverside have gone through the roof. One last point to make, and this is a very important one, and that is that California has statewide rent control. The bill was AB 1482. It's called the Tenant Protection Act of 2019. I've done plenty of content on that. Why that is relevant to rental rates is the fact that if a tenant is in a unit, in many cases, increases on rent are going to be capped on those tenants. So right now, the current maximum that a property subject to AB 1482 can be increased is 10%. Now, if the property is exempt from AB 1482, which applies to any buildings that are 15 years or newer, it also applies to many houses and condos, a landlord can theoretically raise the rent at any level they see fit. So that's important to understand, that there are certain caps in place. Now, once a tenant moves out, a landlord is able to set the rent to the market rate. This is called vacancy decontrol. This means the landlord has control over what the new rent will be. That is what you're seeing reflected in the numbers we just went through. And the majority of the numbers you find online discussing rent are talking about the rental rate for a new tenant moving in. The landlord has set it to market rent, and this is the new number. Subsequently, it leases, and that becomes the rent for the tenant, and they may be subject to the rental caps we just talked about. So this is an important point. Rents have increased dramatically and very quickly in California. This could lead to fewer people moving out because they may not be able to afford the new market rent on a rental, but they can still afford the rent that they have for a property that's subject to AB 1482. So hopefully that makes sense. That is a big thing that we will continue to see in the numbers, that certain people won't move because of the statewide rent control, because they can't afford to. It will continue to lead to lower and lower vacancy rates until more rental properties are built. Make sure you hit that like button if you want to see more of these and you want to see more counties added in. Add your questions and comments below. Do you think rents are going to continue to go up, or are they going to slow down? We have our opinion, and we'll make sure we share it in future videos. Make sure you check out this next video about Southern California that you're not going to want to miss. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates, and we want to hear from you.